Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Factutainment, and we're returning with our Walking with Reviewers series. This time we're covering Giant of the Skies. And I am Zero Yeti, and today I'm joined by Aura
I'm
Master
more.
101.
Oh, so he's gonna cut me off, so I can't talk about the fucking
No, I
the
was
baseball that
announcing you,
Everybody,
and you just took that as a personal offense. Because we're picking aggro today, apparently.
No, I'm just picking silly. I'm not actually aggro. I'm not upset. Hi, I'm Master 101. I will not mention what I mentioned the last time we tried to do this recording. Brandon, say
I
your
I'm
will.
name.
also
Everybody's
joined
Euro
by
2006
Braden.
movie with the
Your
the
name.
face.
Yeah, no. I'm here
I'm also
today to
joined
talk
by
with you.
everyone in my family slamming the fucking doors.
Oh,
But go on, Braden.
Oh, I'm just here to watch the dinosaurs and talk about how cool they are. The flying one specifically for this episode because that's actually really fucking neat. So, I need to.
And then I'm
you need
also
to.
joined by our last member because we're a bit of a skeleton crew today. Beth.
It's me, the skeleton. I'm inside
Spooky.
you right now.
You know,
September is Halloween's Eve.
there's when skeletons in like D&D or fantasy and like video games in general are able to sense where you are, but without having eyes or ears. It's
It's,
because they're communicating telepathically with your own
I'm
skeleton,
I'm gonna I'm
who's
I'm
telling
gonna
them to free it.
I'm gonna skeleton choke you out in just a second. What the?
I love skelepathically. It's so
That
good.
was pretty good. I'm being a salty sea dog. A woof woof bark bark.
But yeah, this episode as Giant of the Skies, which focused, as Brain mentioned, on the pterosaurs of the early Cretaceous, which is neat that we had back to back an episode focused on the sea creatures, and then an episode focused on the flying creatures of the Mesozoic era. Um,
Yeah.
as I was saying, there's multiple pterosaurs that show up in this episode. There is two that are named, and then one that's named in the books, and there's two more that aren't named in either the series or the books. So I'm only going to cover three.
And neither of the pterosaurs mentioned in this episode are the terror of the skies, so don't be expecting the Red Baron to show up anytime soon.
Okay, Brayden.
Well, who's
Sorry, I don't know
Snoopy
it.
then? I'm just gonna say that was a weird ass thing that like the Peanuts did, where they're just like, yeah, one of our main reoccurring like side characters is going to be actual Nazi air pilot, the Red Baron, and it's like, what?
I really like his pizzas.
That's
Wait,
also really weird that there's a pizza chain named after one of the most prolific aerial assassins in
Well,
history.
yeah, you see, they wanted to do the name Papa Hitler didn't take off very well.
You know, I've never even heard of a pizza joint
You've
named
never-
after
Oh
Red
no.
Baron.
No, it's the frozen ones.
Yeah, it's frozen pizza.
There, Red Baron. They're kind of just all right. They're not like the best.
I prefer Red Baron over DiGiorno's. Like, I'm gonna be real
See,
honest.
personally, like Red Baron, it's all right. And recently, and it's not because they went down in price because everyone else went up in price. But for the longest time, I never got Red Baron pizza because it was the more expensive option.
Mm-hmm.
The stream is sponsored now.
No, it is not sponsored. It's
But
not,
then, like, DiGiorno's went up in price. And so it's not really the expensive pizza anymore.
You see, I
Yeah, because
never
DiGiorno's now $2, well, $1 more than $2 more than Red Baron, and it used to be the opposite.
Is it because they actually start delivering DiGiorno now?
No,
I've seen
We
the
were on
big
topic
trucks.
for like
you've
2
seen
minutes.
you've seen the big trucks. Where does it come from, DiGiorno?
Who are you in bed with Big Pizza DiGiorno? We gotta know.
But we should probably talk about the titular creature in the episode, which immediately gets us into some weird controversy because it's named throughout the episode as Ornithochirus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
However, the creature shown in the episode is actually now called Tropiognathus,
Escondalo.
which I can never spell completely because it's an Argentinian name. Well, not
I
Argentinian,
don't
Brazilian.
get how you can spell any of this.
Oh,
So-
you see,
The controversy surrounding the Walking with Dinosaurs and the Thachyrus is that at the time there was arguments that so Ornithochirus proper is known from, I believe it's England,
Mhm.
Ornithochirus, and it was found much earlier than like the other remains assigned to it. 'Cause it was found in 1869, well, 1861. And it's known from fairly fragmentary material. Like you got part of the jaw, like part of the upper and lower jaws.
Mhm.
And because this is not that good of material, like we can tell it was assigned to a pterosaur, but when you're trying to like see if match with other things, it's kind of hard to do when your holotype specimen is 2 pieces of jaw,
Mhm.
which is an unfortunate common phenomenon in not the United States, in paleontology. So previously, many creatures, creatures that we thought were examples of Ornithochirus have been found from throughout North America, Europe, and South America, as well as Africa.
Mhm.
However, as time went on, we've since determined those to be their own separate genuses from Ornithochirus. One of these being Tropiognathus, which, given that we start off with the giant of the skies being in South America, and given its general size proportions, it's pretty much like known that like the Ornithochirus depicted is actually Tropiognathus. Because once again, Ornithochirus is known from fairly fragmentary remains. They were also a bit smaller than the Ornithochirus is depicted in the episode. Because the Ornithochirus in the episode is said to have a wingspan of like...
It's at 12 meters, right?
it was like over 12 meters. And previously it was estimated to be that big for Tropiognathus. Or for Ornithochirus, it was actually pretty smaller, because now estimates are now that it had a wingspan of just 16 feet. Instead of, like, I think 12 meters would be 40 feet.
Oh.
And Tropiognathus itself, I believe, only is estimated to have been 30 feet. So skull belonging to one has been estimated to be 28.5 feet. Like, one has been estimated to be 28.5 feet. Okay. And I hope my computer
So
doesn't
they're not
freeze
as
again.
biggy boys as we've been led to believe.
They're also said in the episode to be the largest creature to ever fly. This is not true. They were exceptionally large because they got almost a 30-foot wingspan. Tropiognathus did. However, there is since been, and even at the time of Walking with Dinosaurs being made, there have been bigger pterosaurs found, such
like
as
that big giraffe-sized one.
Yeah, the Asdarchids, such as we have the most famous is Quetzalcoatlus, which it's named after an Aztec god, and I'm not sure how to spell that. So I'm just gonna type in something. There we go.
Yeah. Then type in Maid Dragon.
Oh.
There you go.
Tee ha ha ha.
Here's one where it was made by Blue Rhino Studio.
It looks like its head wouldn't be able to go with it up in the sky.
So here's the thing of
it flies off without its head.
Here's the thing is pterosaur bones are actually remarkably light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they did something where they have hollow bones that are cross-hatched. So they're structurally fairly strong, but they are exceptionally light because they are so hollow.
Well, it's not so much that it looks like it'd be too heavy to fly. It looks so much that the weight is so misdistributed that it wouldn't be able to fly.
That is fair.
It's light and fluffy because it's made with milk.
I guess one justification you can maybe have is this is all hollow space. This is where all the organs are.
I suppose that's probably what it is, yeah.
And organs way more than hollow space.
His head is so big because it's full of secrets.
And steel weighs heavier than feathers.
The steel is heavier than feathers.
So Quetzalcoatlus is in the running for the tallest pterosaur and probably wingspan largest, along with a couple other Asdarchid pterosaurs from the late Cretaceous, including Hatzegopteryx.
Miku?
Hatsumuku.
So here's Hatzegopteryx.
What the fuck? Open that image. I can't make out that thing's head.
I'm sorry. This looks like a fucking Dark Souls boss. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Chris, are these
bigger
real?
than he?
Yeah, these are real.
These are real?
And this is it compared to a giraffe. Which is why Asdarchids are also normally called giraffe storks.
Fitting.
For sure, some of these are my nightmares once.
We'll talk more about these guys because they do feature later in the series.
Very nice.
More about nightmares.
But yeah, there's a couple Asdarchids that are huge. I can find some information real fast. 1 second. Here we go. I forgot how to spell Hatzegopteryx already. Oh, it's Romanian, so... Yeah, all these giant pterosaurs, I do appreciate them having fun names that are about mythological creatures from local localities, but Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzegopteryx are very hard to spell, being from ancient Aztec mythology and Hungarian Romanian folklore.
Yeah, these things are in Elder Scrolls or Elden Ring, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah, something kind of like these, except more nightmare fuel.
Yeah, actually, these look like they belong in an indie horror game. As one of those big things that are kind of a big monster that's blind, but it has crazy insane hearing. So as soon as you fart once, it starts chasing you down, and
as you are known to do.
Okay, look, I don't know about y'all, but if
F to not fart.
Okay, look, if I don't know about y'all, but if I encountered Pyramid Head in real life, I would probably shit myself on the spot.
If you encountered Pyramid Head, you'd try to fuck him. I know how you think.
And there's also a giant one called Ambergagenia.
I deserve that. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah. So they're running for the largest pterosaurs. You have Quetzalcoatlus, Hatzegopteryx, Ambergenia. Hatzegopteryx is shorter but heavier than the other two.
His face is
did horrible things to these beasts.
Does it fly?
They do fly. They were also very proficient at walking.
Yeah, it looks like they're proficient at walking.
But flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question.
We should probably
get back live underwater.
Should probably get back to the focal animal, which is Drobearnathus.
Like the entire episode just goofs on this motherfucker.
Yeah, this poor guy.
Yeah.
So Tropionathus itself, come on.
Yes.
Sorry,
Where are we going?
my thing that I was reading the information off of failed to load because I love that when technology
Reloading.
fails me. Okay, here we go. So Tropionathus lived in the early Cretaceous of South America, approximately 113 to 108 million years ago. First remains of Tropionathus consisting of a partial skull were found in the Santana group in the Ararape Basin in the Sierra Brazil Formation by fossil hunt collectors at some point in the 1980s. In 1987, said skull was purchased by German Paleontology Museum in Munich, who name described it as its type species Tropionathus mesebrinus by Dr. Peter Holfer. And the specific name means keel jaw, as reference to the crests on the tops of its top and bottom of its beak.
Okay.
Then the specific name of Mesebrenos means of the noontide, in reference to the provenance of where it was found. For a while, many pterosaurs were part of a bit of taxonomic confusion, being reclassified as various creatures such as Anhenguera, Coriorhynchus, Coloborhynchus, and most famously Ornithochirus. However, the discovery of a second Tropionathus specimen in 2002, consisting of a lower jaw, and a third specimen, consisting of a mostly complete skeleton, found that Tropionathus was its own distinct genus. And it reached around 4.5 to 6.5 feet tall, and 23 to 28.5 foot wingspan. And it's regarded as one of the largest pterosaurs that is not Nesdarken. And at the time of its existence was likely one of the largest pterosaurs on Earth because the Asdarchids don't arrive till the late Cretaceous, and the Tropionathus is from the early Cretaceous. Which may seem like a weird distinction, but we should keep in mind that the Cretaceous is as long as the Triassic and Jurassic combined. So it's a sizable chunk of time.
Their mouths also look like you just hammered a bunch of nails into a board.
It's kind of like how I think that the last 5 years have stretched on for an eternity.
And the
Because
beat
so much
goes,
shit
Called time
constantly
dilation.
happens. It's
and the
almost
beat
like
goes
trauma makes you
on.
process things differently.
So I'm guessing that the ridge on the beak is probably shaped that way. Well, one for aerodynamics, but also to cut through the water so that it can grab fish easier.
That was the belief at the time, and that may have actually played a part in it. However, I should bring up that it's shown as skim feeding, which was very popular. Look at this old reconstruction of it versus more modern reconstructions.
He, I don't. He does not look like he should be flying in the air in that old picture.
But anyway,
One looks like a seagull.
yeah. So
The one down there in the bottom.
they're shown as skim feeding, which was a very popular depiction of pterosaurs at the time. How we thought a lot of pterosaurs fed was by skim feeding on the water, catching fish, and then taking off. Skim feeding has been shown based off of studies of modern skim feeding birds to actually be very taxing on an animal to do. It applies a lot of like pressure and strain on any apparatus of the animal that is dipping into the water. With a lot of skim feeding animals, that is the head and neck.
Hmm.
And it kind of makes sense how you're basically flying at a certain speed, and then you're entering a medium which is much denser, being water, which is much slower. So your head is instantly slowing down while your body is still accelerating.
Mhm.
And that can put a lot of strain on animals. And it's been found that above a few kilograms in weight, unless you have extreme adaptations, it basically break an animal's neck. So we don't think creatures the size of Tropionathus could in fact skim feed. Instead, it's been suggested that they, like a pelican or certain other uh, like birds, like seabirds, would have instead landed on the water and then like just plunged in to grab stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, how can it land on the water to plunge in and grab stuff, and then be dry enough to fly again to
So
continue if they're flying over?
that's another inaccuracy of the episode.
Is it
It's
flying over the ocean?
yes.
No, it's
Okay.
probably the downy stuff. Huh?
Because
Yeah.
that's what I was figuring. I was like, they were probably just found in two different locations, and they didn't actually migrate between like over the oceans for like.
Well, we know these guys definitely were. Their beaks are well designed to catch and eat fish.
Mhm.
They like I'm trying to get a good picture. 1 second.
That's all good.
I was just thinking the
You
migrating
They're-
over
get
the
a
ocean
bad
over the
picture
course of
instead.
days seemed kind of unrealistic,
There's one.
given everything else we know about them so far.
Yeah.
So their beak structure with the teeth, those are well designed to catch and eat slippery prey such as fish.
Mhm.
The thought, it said in the episode that when it's raining, the pterosaurs couldn't fly. And this is thought that the pycnofibers, which are described as fur, but we actually know they're more like feathers in structure, would get waterlogged and then the animal would be too wet and heavy to fly. However, we know by various pterosaurs remains that are found by water, including most famously Pteranodon. So, hang on 1 second. That these creatures were actively diving into the water to feed. Because like Pteranodon is found in the Western Cretaceous, in the Western Interior Seaway, which is there is almost no land. It is all water. How were something like that couldn't get wet diving, like eating, or even existing in an ocean environment? And the simple answer is we now know that like ducks, they were perfectly fine entering water. And their feathers won't get waterlogged because they likely had oil or something they would spread on it, so that they could then take off and fly again.
Okay.
Oleoducts.
Okay, so they can fly after getting wet.
Yes. Here's one. This is the one I was looking for. Here's a cool depiction of it just diving into the water to get stuff. Alongside
Gunter.
these Hesperornis, which were basically late Cretaceous penguins.
Gunter, is that you?
Let me get a drink real fast.
Well, he's got. Let me talk about our. I'm kidding. We don't have any sponsors.
I forget, was the Red Baron discussion in this recording, or was in that the
It's in
failed
this
recording?
recording.
It is.
There's our sponsor.
Red Baron Pizza.
Red Baron Pizza. It's
There's
not
a
what's for
decent
dinner, but
size of what it would be like.
8 meters.
So it would have been more than fine setting on the water and then feeding by like dipping its head in and catching fish. It could have also flown in a rainstorm. A third inaccuracy is that it's shown as needing to wait till the midday for thermals to be able to give it enough lift for it to be able to take off and soar. This has again been somewhat disproven by current genetic analysis, not phylogenetic, but physical analysis of the anatomy of pterosaurs, and that is that pterosaurs don't launch themselves like birds. Pterosaurs instead launch themselves much more like bats, wherein they use their forelegs instead of rearing back and then flapping. They use, here's actually one of an Ornithocheirus. They use their forelimbs to kind of launch themselves into the air. And that's why it doesn't, that's why, because when you're taking off like a bird, you kind of need both really strong front legs and really strong back legs in order to launch yourself. But if you launch yourself more like a bat or a pterosaur, you can have little dinky back legs because all of your power is in your front limbs, which are also being used to both launch yourself and to fly. So they were more than capable of launching themselves into the air and then taking off without the need for thermals. Now, would thermals help, especially with soaring? Yes. That's what vultures use to soar great distances. But in order to just get off the ground, they would have been able to do this. And here's one where it's granted this isn't as dark. Never mind, that's tiny. Here we go. This would be like a typical launch cycle of a pterosaur, where they kind of put their legs forward and then they rear back. Well, not rear back, but they move their body forward after their, and then launch to the sky. Another thing is, Ornithocheirus is shown to be very cumbersome while walking on land. Again, this is thought because they had fairly poor back legs, they weren't necessarily able to walk that well on land. But then again, when you shift that they are walking quadrupedally. They got that right. But they are more than capable of using their arms to walk as well, and so they're less clumsy. Granted, they're not running. But
this is how I walk when I'm alone on Home Alone.
I don't know how you to equate it, but they're less like seals, more like sea lions, where seals just kind of have to hop and hope they can get to the water in time, whereas sea lions can actually kind of shuffle and move, if that makes any sense.
I kind of get that.
Yeah, the way they were depicted in the show,
Yeah.
I guess this and one of the other pterosaurs, they just look like tents when they're walking. They just look like a flesh tunnel.
Here's an example. They can fully lift themselves off the ground and walk using both their front and back legs.
Stanced up.
And they can even sort of gallop a little bit, not really well, but they're able to move with some degree of speed. People keep slamming doors again. Another thing, this is just a minor nitpick. It's of every pterosaur in the series, their wings fold in from the side instead of from the back. Should fold back from the back because that's how their arms would have moved. But in general, other than that, and I should bring up, it's shown that in the Ornithocheirus model in the show, the males have crests and the females don't. There is no evidence for that.
Yeah, okay.
But other than that, I don't really have much else to say other than it probably... Now, Trophonius was well built to fly long distances, but it likely probably didn't breed in a completely separate part of the world than where it was found. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that I pressed X to doubt on, because I even with all those stop-offs that they did, it's I don't know, as an animal, I feel like as an animal
myself.
No, I feel like if I was an animal like this guy, I would not travel several
And I
hundred
will say
miles.
there are creatures. Granted, they're nowhere near as big as that one, but there are creatures like the albatross, which regularly fly those kinds of distances.
I'm something of an animal myself.
Like,
I already said that.
and the albatross is, I believe, the largest bird.
What are
You
you?
didn't say
What
it
are you
that
doing?
way, though.
Like me?
And I do like that they used the idea at the time that they were all ornithochirus to kind of like as a narrative way of like showcasing a large portion of the prehistoric world. I do think it's neat to have like a road trip episode in a documentary like this.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's like the shittiest, saddest road trip movie ever.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I guess like it's like there's.
Well, you
Yeah,
say
never
that, but
mind.
didn't they make a sequel to Are We There Yet?
It's more
I'm trying
like
to think of
when you
Little Miss
get
Sunshine.
an airfare, but you only have enough money for a one-way ticket.
And then when you get
Well,
done
I
with
guess
your,
I'll just die.
yeah, when you get done with the trip, you die of heart disease.
Yeah.
You die
The
of
trip just
getting no
goes so
bitches.
horribly.
You die of not fucking, and then you just stand out in the sun for no reason and die.
It's a one-way ticket plane ride to Amsterdam, and your
See what
one
they.
thing,
Go ahead.
your one goal in Amsterdam at this point is to fuck in the red light district. However, no matter where you go in Amsterdam's red light district, all the places to fuck are full. So you have to go to like the
Oh, wait.
free. Wait, what?
Oh wait, shit! This is the blue light district. Never mind.
No. You have to go to the gay the free gay cruising spot across the way and get your rocks off over there, and then at some point
Oh.
afterwards you die.
Well, you see, there's your problem. That this is a common mistake. That's the pink light district.
So, one thing I was going to say is, what would you. I think it might have been. Now, granted, I do think there is the sorrowful tone of like this creature we've followed this entire time, just ending up ultimately dying. I do think it's a neat cold open to have. There's a dead pterosaur, and you're gonna watch how he gets to the point where he dies.
Yeah.
I do think it would have been It would have been also interesting had he been able to mate, and then that may have been like a bit of a good note, and then he dies from exhaustion afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
He dies. He dies from the exhaustion of fucking.
I kind of want
He travels 300,000 miles to fuck once and then dies.
I kind of want to put him in
Honestly-
S tier just to give him a win.
No, I think he's like a B tier because like this episode just makes it out to be like this guy fucking sucks. He gets scared off by a bunch of pigeons.
I mean, have you ever been attacked by magpies?
Oh, have you?
Yes. They.
Why?
Well, and that's also a thing of. I wonder if I can pull up the video. So magpies get very
Googling there.
territorial of their nests,
Uh-huh.
and if you get anywhere near it, they will attack you viciously.
Why were you
And-
near a
They're
mag?
tennis racket
nest.
around.
Because magpies, and granted, it's much more of a thing in Australia as well, but magpies, they'll just build their nests in like the tree outside your house.
Oh, I see.
And then you walk outside and then they attack you.
Well, I
Can't
heard
be caught lacking in these streets.
snack-a-lackin'.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't know. Don't question me.
Oh, I can't
Google,
find
what
it.
the fuck?
But there's a video. Oh, here it is. There's a video of a polar bear being attacked by, I believe it's Arctic terns. That they're defending their nest. And they just keep attacking its eyes.
Oh God.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
the
does
thing
happen
that
in
birds
this
do.
episode.
This is the thing that birds do. If it loads.
Yeah, don't you
Alright.
know any bird outside your house is going to do this to you?
Oh,
You should kill all
God.
birds.
See,
Oh
watch.
God.
They keep attacking him.
Is it because Ronald Reagan still controls the birds? Oh, this poor polar bear. Rah!
Bonk.
They
Oh.
keep going for the same spot too.
Die!
It's like
Got his ass.
they know they aim for the eyes. But yeah, where do we want to rank the Ornithochirus? Well,
Like
Tropiodnathus.
B, honestly.
I wanted to put him in S to give him one win, but I feel like I'm going to get outranked, and
That's
I'll
an
say
S,
B.
a B. Bryn?
So I don't think he deserves to be ranked very highly. One, because he's obviously the hit protagonist in He Gets to Know Bitches, and that one's kind of mid. And secondly, is they got a lot of the like important facts about the creature wrong, including its name, because apparently they were depicting a completely different species. I think
It's the
C is the highest I can
Incelosaurus.
go.
I'm going
Ooh,
to
C.
say, let's go with B tier.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a happy medium.
Okay, and then next
You like
up,
go? You like go? He goes to the cuck beach and dies of crank.
let's go to another inaccurate depiction, which is the Utah raptor in this episode.
Which is inaccurate because we were nowhere near Utah.
Yeah, we were.
That's the thing. Can you guys guess where Utah raptor fossils have been found?
I'm assuming
Ohio.
not Utah. Yeah, Ohio.
Utapau.
Yeah, they're found in Utah, not England.
Not England, not South America.
So, and this is kind of
Not even
baffling to me
Brazil.
because there's literally a whole segment where they fly through North America
Mm-hmm.
and they don't put Utah raptor there.
Oh yeah, you're right. He does fly over the
They put
North
him
America
in
at some
Europe.
point.
What if you literally swapped the two sequences of Iguanodon and the Utah raptor Iguanodon around, it would have fit.
I blame.
Right.
I don't know who I blame.
The thing that gets me about this model they made, the yellow with like brown spots makes it look like one of those funny geckos you see online. I can't take this thing seriously.
He looks
Plus
like
the
a
fact
banana.
that all throughout the episode you have the physical prop of a dinosaur peeking out of a bush like the creepy weirdo in that meme going, oh, yes.
Now that
face
you
would look
mention
kinda
it's
weird.
yellow, now that you mention it's yellow
Sorry.
and brown, like yellow complexion and brown spots, he do be kind of looking like a banana.
The banana.
This is a more
Banana.
RS rendition of it where it's got feathers on it.
Oh,
So that's the thing. The Utah raptor in this episode is obviously not found in Utah. It's
shit.
in Europe for some reason, which there's a meme that I think is funny. One second.
Europe raptor.
Excuse me.
Isn't he that guy that does those animations? I'm kidding, no.
No. Well, not anymore. He doesn't. Oh, not funny. Yeah, that fucking face.
I thought that I thought that said urethra raptor for a second, and I was very
No, that's
Of
confused.
course you did. But yeah, it's the. What are you doing in England? Mind your
Mind your
damn
own
business.
business. Oh god, the poor Yeager raptor. Fuck! I almost said the
You
poor
reminded me of
Utah
that meme
raptor.
of the
But
person
anyway-
with the light bulb over their head. They're like, urethra.
Aside from Utah raptor immigrating to England, there are some notable inaccuracies with the Utah raptor model. One, it should have had feathers. B, the head shape's a bit wrong.
You said one and then B.
Point Trace. We got. It's overall too skinny, and too like the legs are a bit too short. The arms are a bit too skinny. And this is probably because it's modeled after basically a giant Deinonychus.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did think those things look way too thin, but I didn't want to comment on it because what the fuck do I know?
Well, they're just hungry.
They're just
Which,
angry.
at around the time Walking with Dinosaurs was made, this was the general perception of Deinonychus. Will you please load? There we go.
Gotta give him the old razzle dazzle.
Which about looks being more elongated, about looks like.
This look. Hang on, hold on. Oh, go back to that image. This looks like a fucked up version of Journey to the West. Like, very specifically, this dog and chicken, and also a fucking dinosaur.
Sung Wukong
Oh, no, that'll be the story of
transforming into
Momotaro.
a dinosaur.
There you go.
All we need is a monkey.
But here's a better comparison via, thank you, Wikipedia. If I can pull it
Wikipedia.
down real fast. So, Utah Raptor is actually very distinct from other dromaeosaurs by being much more heavily built because it was a much larger creature. It's kind of, it's depicted as very like more skinny, more lanky, as more like a Deinonychus would. And Deinonychus has been compared to like a wolf in terms of its kind of ecological niche, its behaviors. Utah Raptor has been more compared to that of a bear because it's much more strongly built. And so the Walking with Dinosaur one is actually fairly unique in the Walking with series, is that it's actually undersized. Now, let's see. Let's pull up a Utah Raptor skeleton. It's also shown hunting in packs, and many have argued, like you can see how just the skeleton itself is actually more kind of beefier than it's depicted in
Give
the
him the old razzle
series.
dazzle.
Many have argued that the idea of raptors hunting in packs, there isn't that much solid evidence behind it.
We've been lied to by society.
There is evidence that at least some kind of like mobbing behavior might have happened. There's Deinonychus remains found where there's a bunch of Deinonychus individuals around one iguanodontian known as Tenatosaurus. And then there's actually one called the Utah Raptor Project, where it's a group of Utah raptors have been found in a stone block where they died alongside an iguanodontian. It's unknown exactly if these were a familial pack that worked together to bring this thing down, if it was maybe a predator trap scenario, or if it was just a group of them all mobbed the same iguanodontian and took it down. But I kind of lean towards they were probably working together to some extent. Maybe they weren't as complex as they're shown in the episode. But in general, aside from the coming to England at immigration and being a bit undersized and a bit too like non-proportional, I think it's a fairly interesting depiction. It's neat how they've showcased him in the episode. Let me just give you a couple stats on the animal fast. Excuse me.
It has an S in strength and an A in dexterity.
So yeah, at around 23 feet in length, around to up to 1,100 pounds in weight. They were roughly comparable to the size of a modern polar bear.
Polar
Here's
bears.
an example of it, aside by some other dromaeosaurs.
That one guy standing there is fucked.
Oh, he's Chris Pratt. He's fine.
He's about to be a Chris Pratt if you. By the time they're done.
They've invented fire to go against him. But yeah, where do we want to put Utah Raptor if I can find it?
I was kind of thinking like a B, given its kind of goofy looking thing. But ever since you posted that meme, I'm thinking at least an A.
I'm thinking an A as well.
I can do A. A sounds good.
Okay, if I can find Utah Raptor, I'll put it in there. There it is. And then move you up to A for Utah Raptor. One second.
No, we found out about his work. We found out about the Red Baron's war crimes and the vote canceled.
Oh
him.
my god!
You can't be a Nazi. You can't even be a Nazi in this day and age because of woke.
I was gonna make the joke of just pouring Robitussin
What are you
on your
talking
Red
about? You
Baron's
just have to be the entire Republican Party as of late.
All right, who's the next?
So the next one will be Iguanodon.
Ooh. Is it an iguana or is it a dot?
So there's actually two groups of Iguanodon depicted in this episode. There's the Iguanodons in Europe,
which have the fat dump truck asses.
Oh yeah, right.
You made a comment about it earlier.
The wall of flesh.
And there's the Iguanodons in North America. I like how they're differentiated because the European ones are like green and the ones in North America are more brown and striped.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's a neat detail. It's shown and stated to be like found on every continent. This has to do with a belief much earlier. It really dates back to the beginning of Dinosauria as we know it, because for those of you who don't know, Iguanodon was the second dinosaur ever named. So Iguanodon was named along with Hylaeosaurus and Megalosaurus as the first or the three dinosaurs that Richard Owen used to establish Dinosauria as a concept. That was when, like, back in the 1842, he established the term dinosaur to describe all of these giant extinct creatures they were finding. Like all these giant extinct reptilian creatures they were finding. And he named it off of Megalosaurus, named after Iguanodon, and Hylaeosaurus. Hylaeosaurus is an ankylosaur, Megalosaurus theropod, and Iguanodontian is an ornithoscheian. Unfortunately, all three of these creatures became what are known as wastebasket taxons to an extent. Wherein basically every time they found a theropod, every time they found an ornithopod, or every time they found an ankylosaur, they assigned it to theropods became Megalosaurus, this species. Ornithopods became Iguanodon, this species. Ankylosaurs became Hylaeosaurus, this species. Since then, a lot of them have been reassigned as a separate genre, completely differently. So, Iguanodon itself is lucky because Iguanodon is actually known from pretty well complete remains, at least compared to like Megasaurus, especially Hylaeosaurus, because there's a mine where they found like a whole herd of Iguanodontian, like Iguanodonts. that were preserved in like this coal mine, and they're basically all complete skeletons. Um, Now, iguanodon is known from Europe. And since then, all the different species of iguanodon, the vast majority of them have been reclassified as now separate genre. Trying to remember if how many valid species of iguanodon there are. Yeah, over 2 dozen. At one point, over 2 dozen species were assigned to iguanodon. But today, only iguanodon bernissartensis and iguanodon galvanus are considered valid.
Oh, that's wrong.
So there's only 2. That at one point there were 24 species of iguanodon. Now there's only 2 that are considered valid because everything else has basically become its own thing. And this includes the North American iguanodon shown in the episode, which is now known as Dakotodon. So we'll probably talk about him separately, but let's first go over iguanodon itself. So iguanodon, as far as it's showcased in the episode, it's actually showcased as being it's large, but actually not large enough. It's actually undersized again. Because iguanodon itself got to up to 43 feet in length and up to 3.5 tons in weight. Like, these were not small creatures by any means.
I think it's a truck.
And this kind of has to do with how our depictions of iguanodon have kind of changed over the years. Because at the time Walking with Dinosaurs came out, our perception of iguanodon kind of looked like this. Our modern interpretation of iguanodon is much more like this. Please be a decent pic. There we go. They're much more heavily built animals. Their arms were bigger. Their arms were very muscular. Their arms actually infamously have spikes on their hands, which they use probably for both feeding, as like pulling down branches, as well as defending themselves against predators. And it's probably in intraspecific combat, which is combat with other iguanodons.
Yeah, they're going to put them up. They're going to start boxing.
And then, of course,
He looks
iguanodon
like he's about to give like a good handshake.
Of course, iguanodon being one of the oldest dinosaurs in history, has had quite a few changes over the years. If this loads.
Yeah, are we gonna check out the one on the right that's been eating a lot of cake?
I'm trying. I keep clicking on things that won't load.
The episode's just not ready for. Damn, he is a chonker.
Big old lizard.
Like, here's iguanodon through the ages. And at first
we don't talk about the 1840s.
At first it was very much iguana-like, and then it becomes this kind of rhino-like thing, and then it becomes bipedal, and then it starts taking more and more shape into what we now think it to be. And I guess I'll give a little background on iguanodon itself. Sorry, go ahead. Chunky.
I like 'em big. I like 'em chunky.
So iguanodon lived throughout what is now Eurasia during the late Jurassic and early Cretaceous periods, around 155 to 122 million years ago. And the exact discovery of iguana has become something of a popular story, with excessive retelling of some details have become a little blurred, but in general, Gideon Mantell was practicing as an obstetrician whose wife, Mary Ann, discovered the first teeth in a quarry in Whiteman's Green, Sussex, where while he was visiting a patient in 1822, However, later Gideon Mattel himself stated in 1851 that he was the one who found the original teeth. Regardless, initially the teeth were a second concern for Mattel, as he was more concerned with the reconstruction of bones of the theropod teeth, which he believed to be a giant crocodile, setting the herbivore teeth aside as belonging to a different, equally massive reptile. 1822, the herbivore teeth were submitted to the Geological Society of London, but response was not positive, as the members declared the teeth belonging to either a rhinoceros or possibly a fish. Just after this, Charles Linnell showed some teeth to Georges Cuvier, whose first reached the same conclusion as the Geological Society. However, in 1824, after the description of Megalosaurus by William Buckland, he visited Mattel to study his collection of bones and realized immediately that Mattel had a creature that appeared to be more similar to Megalosaurus than a rhinoceros, which prompted Mattel to again send the herbivore teeth to Cuvier, who confirmed to Mattel that the teeth were reptilian. With the help of Samuel Stutchbury, Mattel recognized that they resembled those of an iguana, and decided to name his new animal Iguanodon or iguana tooth from iguana and the Greek odon meaning tooth in 1825. Initially, he wanted to call it Iguanosaurus. However, other people, it was actually Stutchbury told him that seeing as saurus just means lizard, Iguanosaurus would include modern iguanas. And so he couldn't just call it Iguanosaurus.
The name was too sick as fuck.
And then over the next 2 centuries, 24 species would be assigned as iguanodon. However, many have been considered to be a genre in their own right today, and only 2 species are considered valid. So iguanodon had large, tall, but narrow skulls tipped with toothless beaks and possessed teeth like those of iguanas, but much larger and more tightly packed. By far the most distinguishing feature is the thumb spikes, and then in life, iguanodon would have lived in semi-arid coastal regions in similar climates to today's Mediterranean. They are stated in the episode to be the first dinosaurs with like grinding teeth, which isn't true because there's another dinosaur that we know had grinding teeth that lived much earlier, but their teeth did allow them to eat very complex or like process their food very well, which gave them a leg up compared to other dinosaurs.
Jesus Christ.
This is the other dinosaur with grinding teeth. It's Heterodontosaurus.
Oh. It's like my nuts.
But yeah, that's some background about Iguanodon. What do we think about it?
Yeah, the thing about the teeth sounded like one of those things they usually say in this series that definitely sounds too good to be true.
I think they're a cool little guy. I would say B tier.
B.
You know
I'd
what?
say it's maybe an A.
No, he a classic. His design hasn't changed since he one of the really early guys, all the way up to today. I say give him an S.
Okay. Can my computer not fucking freeze?
So that would average out an A.
I
think he did say something.
Sorry, my computer fucking froze for a second. Again, for some reason. So we said A tier for it?
Yeah, A tiers.
Alright.
It's okay. It's all those ads on your computer.
Yeah, it probably is.
Okay. So next up is Dakotodon.
Episode is brought to you by uBlock Origin.
Was that one actually found in Dakota?
Yes.
North Dakota? South Dakota?
Dakotodon.
Oh my gosh, it's just Iguanodon's brother.
Oh, is this the American Iguanodon?
Yes. This is what
They
we
showed?
now believe
Okay.
it to be, is Dakotodon. So, Dakotodon was obviously found in North America. It was initially believed to be Iguanodon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know much about a Dakotodon itself, other than it was first described in 1989 as Iguanodon lacotensis. However, it
That's
was in 2008 found to be its own distinct species. It's known from fragmentary skull,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it reached about 1 ton in weight and 20 feet in length.
Ooh, that's a big boy.
And it kind of just gets featured in this episode because it was initially thought to be a type of iguanodon. But it's neat. I think it's cool.
How neat is he?
Where do I want to put Dakotodon?
honestly
Uh,
just put it next to the
yeah.
Iguanodon.
Yeah, put him next to the other iguanodon. They
Okay.
like they both they
They're the
both
same
serve.
thing.
Let me
Mhm.
find iguana.
Yep.
Let me find Dakotodon. There it is. Okay.
Him brother just the same as him.
Yeah,
Or he.
they're the Sam and Dean Winchester of the dinosaur world.
There you go.
So everyone ships them
Okay.
together for some reason?
Hell yeah.
So next up, following the iguanodons, we should probably include Polacanthus, which was
Ooh.
it's a species of ankylosaur dinosaur. That's really small. Which is frequently shown alongside. It's very blurry.
What everybody needs to
I
know
mean,
is that this is
it's 90s CG. Of course, it's blurry.
that this dinosaur is the Castiel to the iguanodon.
What? Stop talking about fucking supernatural.
You can't stop me.
So Polacanthus is a species of nodosaur and ankylosaur, I believe, that lived throughout what is now Europe during the early Cretaceous period, some 130 to 125 million years ago. They're shown in the episode frequently walking along and beside Iguanodon. Like here's a classic example. And it's kind of just like they're shown as just a mixed herding groups. Although they're shown as kind of just be like one Polacanthus alongside a whole herd of Iguanodontians.
Yeah, they do feel like sort of a glorified cameo in this episode. It's like, hi, I'm also here. Don't mind me.
I mean, they do have that one part where they like ward off a Utah raptor.
Well, of course, they had to give it something. They
Which
put
is,
it on the screen already.
hey, that's more than they gave to Platysaurus. So Polacanthus, as far as the depiction goes, it's a somewhat accurate depiction. They do have the ornamentation right, where it had spikes more over the shoulders and over the hips. It had what's called a sacral shield, which is basically fused bone that sort of made this like flat plate over the
Yeah, I've
hips.
got a shield on my sack. He ain't special.
Uh, so Polacanthus was found on the Isle of Wight in 1865. There are actually not that many fossil specimens of this creature. Mostly just the sacral shield over the back hips, and some other isolated spikes, vertebrae, and I think a leg bone.
Mm-hmm.
In general, it got around 16 feet and around 2 tons in weight. However, some estimate it to have been a bit smaller, around 13 feet and 1 ton in weight. It's also depicted as a bit too round in the episode. So that's a thing of the ankylosaurs and Walking with Dinosaurs seem to be depicted as kind of like these round creatures. But in life, many ankylosaurs were much more flatter. So like this one, where
See, now what I'd
they
say
had more of a
is,
flat
I'd
top.
say, yeah, I'd say that biology is depicting it as too flat. Now the show is depicting it as too round because, frankly, they should be that round. This thing looks terrible.
Yes,
Well,
biology got it
they're
wrong.
more of,
Yeah,
from what I've gathered, ankylosaurs are more built. They're not quite as extreme as like a pancake tortoise, but they're less like a Indian tortoise. So here's an example of a pancake tortoise.
That is a tortoise that is shaped like a pancake.
Yep. So Polacanthus, I do like its inclusion in it. As far as inaccuracies go, so here's one that was probably similar to like what it looked like in life. There
the
is
sleepiest soldier.
and here's a idea of what its skeleton will look like. There has been some studies of a close relative that's like much more well preserved called Sauropelta, which is actually from North America. That shows that it may have actually had longer spikes than it did in the episode, because the episode is the first top one. This is what possibly it may have more looked like on the bottom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it may have been more punk than it was depicted in the episode. It was
Anarchy
found
dinosaur.
by the Reverend William Fox, the Isle of Wight, in 1865. Additional specimens have been recovered or since been referred to Polacanthus. Because they're mostly only isolated armor pieces. Many of these have been referred to other creatures such as Hylaeosaurus, and then remains found in both North America and Spain were assigned to Polacanthus over the North American ones have since been claimed to be a separate species, as kind of shown in the episode. I believe there's only trying to read how many species there are. Here, we'll scroll up. There is likely only 2 species. But yeah, Polacanthus. Oh yeah, another thing on regards to like its social behavior. One thing you might not expect from being such heavily armored dinosaurs that are kind of depicted as just being like these stubborn brutes of animals. They have the largest brains of any non-theropod dinosaur. And evidence from other ankylosaurs shows they probably lived in somewhat, not necessarily complex, but somewhat social groups. And it's likely they didn't live in like huge herds, but traveled together in like trios or maybe more than that groups in number.
They had a social network, you might say.
Sure. So it traveling alongside Iguanodont for like food and just mutual protection isn't unlikely. Many unrelated creatures in the modern day do that, such as like zebra and wildebeest and gazelle and ostriches.
Hang on a second. Is there an R in wildebeest?
I don't actually know.
It is
Wildebeest.
But yeah,
wildebeest.
So they would have been wider and flatter than they are depicted in the episode.
Wildebeest is spelled Wildebeest.
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 Why BEEST?
I don't believe it's an English word.
You know, BTS.
Okay.
Okay, so where do I want to put Polacanthus?
B. It doesn't really do much.
Yeah, it's a cameo. It's a B at least.
So like it seems really
Like
cool, but it didn't really carry over to modern day, so it must have really kind of sucked. So yeah, Polacanthus Chan is gonna have to go in like the BC tier.
Polacanthus, Sean, are you fucking? I'm gonna kick your
I
ass.
was paying attention. Were you? Were you the viewer paying attention? No.
And then, as far as the American version, if I can pull it up, Hoplitosaurus. So,
I like how it says extinct genus of dinosaurs, as if there are any non-extinct genus of dinosaurs.
they're birds.
Yeah.
Birds aren't extinct.
I'm sure there's
They
at least one
are Reagan
species of bird that's
replaceable
extinct.
campers.
So there's a species
Name
depicted
one
in the
bird.
episode that's called Polacanthus in the that's shown in the American segment of the episode. That's now considered to be a creature known as Hoplitosaurus, which is an ankylosaurian dinosaur that was first found in 1898 near Buffalo Gap Station by Nelson Horatio Darton, who initially
Named
thought it,
Horatio.
who gave it to. Sorry,
It's okay.
it was considered by who initially thought it was a type of Stegosaurus, and then Charles W. Gilmore fully described the material in 1914. It was for a long time considered a genus to be the same as Polacanthus. And there was dubbed Polacanthus marshy, but since has been rejected, and Ken Carpenter and James Kirkland both know that many resemblance between the two were more widely distributed amongst ankylosaurs than just Polacanthus. Not much is known as the remains are fairly limited. It was thought to be about 4 feet tall at the hips and may have reached around, I think, like 10 or so feet in length. So it would have been smaller than depicted in the show, and it's known from pectoral spines, prescaral spines, a couple plates from the sacral region, and then the tail. So, general, I think it's another neat inclusion. Where should we put it?
B. I didn't even realize this was a separate species.
Well, it's
Me
depicted
either.
as the same as the other one.
Okay.
I'm fine with
One
B.
second. All right. And that concludes the land segment of this episode. Now we're back to the air in the episode dubbed Giant of the Skies with
Yeah, weird amount of not flying in this episode.
Yeah.
with a creature known as Cochlecephalus.
Yeah.
Fucking
Cock.
Ballsaurus.
Alcacephalus.
Or Calcicephalus,
Yeah.
which is the small unnamed one of the small unnamed pterosaurs that the Tropiognathus encounters during his journey, and the one that it steals the fish from.
All right.
So this is what it would have looked more like in life.
Like Donald Duck?
So it's depicted in the episode sort of like this, and it would had more of this snout with like a toothy snout than it is depicted in the episode. And here's what it would have looked like more standing, and here's what it would have looked more like flying. So in the episode, it's kind of really hard to tell. They don't seem to have the right job. They do have the horn on the back of the head, like the little crest. They're undersized if they are Colchicephalus.
Do not let this thing around your cats.
Yeah, this looks like evil. It's like Pteranodon's evil brother.
Mm-hmm.
And despite having the Pteranodon-like crest, it's actually a member of the Ornithoceridae family. So it's more closely related to Ornithochirus and Tropeognathus than it is to something like Pteranodon. So, the first known remains of Colchicephalus were found in 1995. And they consisted of some various. They're actually found from the front of the part of the snout.
Mm.
And then more remains consisting of a lower jaw and then part of the wing have also been recovered, as well as a part of a hind bone. So, Colchicephalus is estimated to have a wingspan of up to 16.5 feet. It would have had a crest in life, but it would have also had sported the Hanhaguerid style toothy jaw. And it would have been about comparable to like an eagle in size.
Oh man, he's
Like a
about to
This is
modern
what our
eagle.
state. This is what our country's bird should have been.
Even though it was found in the Wessex Formation of the early Cretaceous of England.
Oh, so this one's correct on the location.
Yes. And Colchicephalus trimicorodon or crodon means caulkhead. Traditional nickname for Isle
You
of
have
Wight
no cock.
residents.
You have no cock. Why are you saying it like that? Cock.
And kephale means head. Oh, that's why. Yeah, that's why pachycephalosaurs are called cephalosaurs because it means head. And so the name Trimicrodon means 3 small teeth.
Incorrect. They have more than They have more than that.
It did look like they have more than 3 teeth.
Yeah, I
I
think they
think
had
that's
at least 7.
I think that was the teeth found in the holotype specimen. Was there was like 3 teeth, along with the part of the jaw. In general, I don't have that much to say about it. Mostly, I haven't done that much research. It's the first time I've heard of this creature. Apologies. I'm so professional.
No, it's
Ladies
okay
and
to not
gentlemen,
know.
we have just discovered this dinosaur.
It's about a meter tall.
You know, it'd be boring if you already knew everything.
Eater, I hardly know her.
But yeah, where do I want to put Colchicephalus? C for Colchicephalus.
Maybe even D. Who the hell cares?
I'm fine with C for Colk.
I
C
mean,
sounds about right.
we keep bringing up the Plateosaurus example, but it did more in its episode than Plateosaurus, didn't it? Even though that
Yeah,
was
we don't care what
being
did more.
bullied by
Yeah,
the
man, which
Tropeognathus.
Which one's Plateosaurus?
That
On
was
the board.
It's the big one that showed up at the end of the first episode.
It didn't do anything. It just showed up.
Yeah, that's why I said
Exactly.
this one did more than Plateosaurus did.
Ah, yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, fuck it, D.
Nah, I want to put it in C if I can find it. It was on here earlier, which is why I put it on the thing we had to cover. There it is. See it. Alright.
I see what you mean.
So we'll put Colchicephalus in C tier.
Hell yeah, for Colk.
And then returning to the
Nope.
skies, but not pterosaurs, we have Iberomesoornis, which was the bird in the episode.
Yeah. There's just like a whole bunch of these things, and they just tell the main character to fuck off for like trying to rest too close to where they live.
They say, "Oi, you're not welcome here."
I mean, to be fair, if like a party bus parked outside of my house so everybody could like take a second to shit or something, I would tell them to fuck off too.
A party bus. It was one guy.
If
Hey,
an
hey,
18-wheeler stopped in front of my house, I'd start shooting a gun at him.
hey, this guy had a lot of parasites on him and in him, so he could have been a party bus.
So do you.
I'll have you know, I am relatively parasite free.
Relatively.
What were we talking about again?
Isopropyl.
Iberomezzoornis.
Isopropyl alcohol.
So it's
Yeah.
the little blue guy in the episode.
He's kind of cute. I like him.
I mean, you say that until you get too close to their nest and they peck you to death.
I would deserve it.
So Iberomezzoornis is a monotypic genus of Enantiornithine bird that lived throughout the Cretaceous in Spain around 125 million years ago. Fossils of Iberomezzoornis were found in 1985 and was discovered by Armando Diaz Romero in the early Cretaceous Calizas de la Huerguina Formation in the Las Hoyas, Cuenca province in eastern Spain.
You can do it, white boy. I believe in you.
Dates back to the thing is, I at one point was able to speak Spanish. I can't now. At one point, I was when I lived in Puerto Rico. It lived throughout the late Bronian age, roughly around 125 million years, like I already said. And in 1992, the type species Iberomezzoornis romerali was named described by Jose Luis Sanz and Jose Fernando Bonaparte, with that generic name being derived from Iberia, which is the Iberian Peninsula, and ornis meaning bird in ancient Greek. It was referred to as an intermediate between basal and modern birds. Its holotype specimen is a compressed skeleton missing the head.
Oh no.
Holotype are my favorite VTubers.
And then
So does this
a second
come-
specimen was
okay,
found
I have
in
to ask.
1994.
I have to ask, does this come before, after, or around the same time as Archaeopteryx?
So Archaeopteryx is back in the Jurassic. So this is after.
Okay. It seems odd they would have skipped over that. Or did that not?
Well, the thing is, they could have featured Archaeopteryx in like Cruel Seas because it lived around the same time as Rhamphorhynchus.
Yeah.
And so they could have had Rhamphorhynchus and Archaeopteryx living on the islands, which may have been neat. But yeah, Archaeopteryx is considered to be the first bird. I'll go ahead and pull up a little bit of Archaeopteryx. It's the dinosaur bird that like everyone knows because it's the most famous. And it's very pivotal to science in general. And let's see if I can get it. But it's, for lack of a better word, more reptilian-like than Iberomezzoornis because it did lack a beak. But it was, by all sense of the word, a true bird. It was capable of powered flight. It had a fairly long tail. Granted, it didn't like soar for long distances. It mostly flew from between tree and tree. And it also lived in islands throughout what is now Europe, and eating a bunch of small vertebrates and insects.
And if the picture is anything to go by, it's got down feathers and up feathers.
Okay, Brent.
What about left and right feathers?
I'm sure it has those too.
So
But-
Iberomezzoornis was quite small, no bigger than a large modern sparrow. It's been estimated to weigh between 15 and 20 grams, and had relatively short wings. It also is notable for having a single claw on each wing, so it's capable of like stabbing things.
Oh, good. Knife birds.
Little knife birds.
Little knife birds, little knife birds.
Since the skull is not known, the diet of Iberomezornis remains subject of guesswork, but it perhaps hunted insects and other small animals. And it may have lived near lakes and coasts, catching insects along the water's surface. So it being depicted as like having a nest in the forest by the beach isn't that unreasonable. As far as the tail goes, there's no real evidence that it had quite as big of a tail fan. And for a long time, it was thought that, like, what group is this? In Antorthine, I don't know how to pronounce that. Birds lacked long tails, but there was a one from, if I remember, found in South America, not South America, Madagascar.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Why was my eyes just assaulted with lackadaisy fan art?
Aha. Because I really misspelled this thing.
You know what? That's fair.
Fala.
Alkashaki.
So I believe it's pronounced Fala Kata Kelly. So Fala Kata Kelly was a Madagascar in Antiornithian bird, which sported a long tail fan.
This is a toucan.
But it's got teeth at the front of its bill.
Ooh.
Okay, it's a dork toucan.
It's a nerd.
Whoa.
It's a nerd.
That was...
Need to give us some little glasses.
So
yeah, why are you all bullying this bird?
in general,
Nerd!
so while it may not been likely that it had a long tail, it cannot be ruled out that it had a long tail like in the episode. And here's what other people have depicted it looking at in life, where it's much more like brown and like orange.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, where do we want to rank Iberomezornis?
I want to say B. He's silly.
Yeah.
B for bird.
B for bird.
Yeah, I like that. I like B for bird.
Sort of an
It's
asshole.
a blue bird too. In the show.
Sort of an asshole picking on the elderly incel that was the main character.
Why do you keep calling him an incel?
Like the dude
Well, he was trying to fuck and did not succeed at doing so against his will.
So, what was I? Oh, yeah. I did say, I guess, in the episode that
There's a mermaid in that image.
There's a mermaid in that image. Yes, there is. So, speaking of blink and you miss it cameos, we have what in the book is described as plesiopleurodon, which in the episode is just the Leopleurodon recolored.
But is it a magical Leopleurodon?
No.
Damn, the
Yeah, you missed that episode, so you weren't able to make that joke when we made that joke.
Sad.
you can make it now though.
So,
I mean, I just did.
it's called Plesiopleurodon in the episode. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that
Please be a
if
pleurodon.
it's Plesiopleurodon, it's a very inaccurate version of the Plesiopleurodon. If it's a Pliosaurus, it fits better.
Yeah, because like the main character the episode flies over this thing. The thing, like, doesn't even peek above the water. It's like, all right, you come down here and say that, and then fucks off.
Or there's a third option where it was just a sock puppet.
Or
Oh.
maybe like a generic Pliosaurus would work better. A Chronosaurus would have been better. At least Chronosaurus would have lived around the same time.
That's a lot of
But
teeth.
because it's named Plesiopleurodon, I'm going to just describe Plesiopleurodon. So, Plesiopleurodon is an extinct genus of Mesozoic marine reptile. Lived throughout the late Cretaceous of North America. It was named by Kenneth Carpenter based on a complete skull and mandible, as well as some cervical vertebrae and a coracoid. And a coracoid is the paired bone of the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically what your shoulder. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily your shoulder blades, but it's like close to your shoulder blades. It was named in 1996. And some general description of it. It was one of the youngest pliosaurs in terms of like a lot more pliosaurs lived in the Jurassic. Well, this one managed to live in the Cretaceous. And in general, try and get like good size on it real fast, see if I can find it. It's distinguished by its short neck, elongated head, and comparatively few teeth. Not really getting the size for it.
One thing I've noticed is this is Plesiopleurodon wellesi. So I'm going to call it
We'll see.
Wesley.
Cool.
We went to two totally
Shut
different
up,
places.
There's not
Fucking penguin.
There's honestly not that much to say about Plesiopleurodon.
It's I have something to say. It's bigger than a bread box.
True.
But
Actually incorrect.
but it's smaller than a really big bread box.
A really big bread box.
Yeah.
Smaller than a red box.
It's smaller than 3 red boxes put together.
So if we assume that mermaid is 2 meters long, then that means that the Plesiopleurodon got about 12 feet.
Damn. Like damn.
And that's weird that I have to go off the size estimate for Plesiopleurodon based off of this image of it being compared to a mermaid.
Compared to a mermaid. Sorry, I haven't
Yeah,
seen
those
a
things exist.
mermaid.
Do you think that mermaid's single?
Sure.
I mean, there's only one
I
of them
only
there.
saw one there. Oh, okay.
She's dating the Plesiopleurodon. They're having a nice swim as a couple.
I can't raise her up.
Yeah, because the trophy Nathan's tried and failed.
Damn. Well, he failed at everything, so that's not my problem.
So where do we put Plesiopleurodon?
Like, giraffe. Fuck this thing.
Alright.
D or F? Holy shit. I was thinking at least a C.
Didn't fucking do anything. It's just like, oh, I'll get you. Oh, you're gone.
I feel like my vote is going to be biased from my missing of last episode because, you know, the sea creatures and stuff. So I'm going
Okay,
to
and
not
that means-
vote.
Yeah, that means your
I
vote should be.
abstain.
I'm trying to find it on this list. Come on, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo.
Come on, motherfuckers, come on. Come on, motherfuckers, come on.
At some point, I should just break down and make my own tier list with fucking names of things on it.
There's so many of them that just look the same.
Yeah.
At this point, I should just break it down.
I can't dance, sorry.
At this point, something Overwatch. Lucio, let's break it down. Yeah.
Okay, we said D, right?
Yeah, we said D.
Yeah, like D or F.
For
Alright,
damn, Charlie, that's
Whenever
a
I
magical
find it,
PS.
I'll throw it in DT.
I mean, is it even on there?
I don't know.
In the arms of a plesiosaurus.
They don't have arms.
They got flippers.
It's the thought that cat. That was nasty.
Ooh.
Oh well.
You see what I have to work with here? All these amateurs.
I'm sorry that I serve cunt every day.
I'm sorry, I am a novice?
Yeah, the homeless shelter.
Sorry, that was my Joker laugh. What did you guys think?
I mean, it sounded like you were choking.
Damn.
It's his choker laugh!
The choker.
Alright. So now
He's
we're going
called
to the
that
last
because
one.
he has a bad gag reflex.
And
Oh,
for
he
the
has
la-
a fin.
Yeah, the ones that are at the start of the episode.
Oh my gosh, Fishbird?
The last animal of the episode is Tapejara. Which
It's weird. Definitely the first episode, the first animal of the episode.
well, our last animal of this episode.
No, they were at the beginning too, right?
Yeah,
No,
they were
I'm
only at the
talking about
beginning.
this recording.
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
I thought we were talking about the episode of the show we watched that we're reviewing right now.
Sure. Anyway. So, Tapejara is another one of the creatures with somewhat complex phylogenetical breakdown. So, Tapejara is named Tapejara. This creature is named Tapejara in the episode, but it's actually probably something called Tupandactylus. This is,
Are you fucking serious?
what?
Follow your nose, wherever it goes.
Anyway, this is because, as another case of creatures being named one thing at the time because they thought it was a species of this other genus, and now being considered its own distinct genus, is Tupandactylus. So initially, all three of these were considered to be all different species of the same genus, Tapejara, which was the first one recovered and named, which is this little guy over here, which I actually own a skull of. However, it has since been determined that the two other species, being B and C, are not Tapejara, but rather close relatives, and they represent their own genus called Tupandactylus.
Are you gonna give its skull back to him?
No.
Oh. Damn.
So Tapejara itself is actually a fairly small creature. So, hang on one second. And they're all creatures in the family what is known as, they're all called Tapejarids. So it's sort of like how, one that comes to mind is the cats. How all big cats are called Panthera, and then they're like tiger is Panthera tigris. Lion is Panthera leo. I forget what the leopard one is. But those are all, they would all be in the genus Panthera, but they're all their own distinct creature. It was thought that this was a similar case. It's since been determined that these two are their own genus called Tupandactylus. Tapagera itself was first remains of Tapagera was found in the Santana Formation of the Arepe Basin in northern Brazil by paleontologist Alexander Kilner and Diogenes del Almeida Campos in 1989.
And Chelsea Steo.
And unfortunately, the phylogenetic classification of Tapagera has been quite turbulent, with a total of 3 species being attributed to the genus. However, the type species, the only current recognized one, is T. wellnofhori, or fairy, Wellnofheri, with the specific name honoring German paleontologist Peter Wellhofner, who helped out with the digs. And the 2 larger species, Tapagera imperator and Tapagera navigans, were later shown to be significantly different from T. Wellnofheri and were reclassified as their own genre. The Tapagera itself reached only about 1 meter tall, or like 2 to 3.5 feet in height, around 3 to 6 pounds in weight, and had around a 4 to 5 foot wingspan. And as far as Tupandactylus goes, which is more of the creature shown in the episode, as they have a remarkably distinct crest. It's also should be noted that Tupandactylus navigans, which is, I believe, the creature in the episode, has one of the best preserved crests in the fossil record of pterosaurs. As you can see, even here, the impressions of where the membrane would be for it.
Right.
Because the crest would have been a boss of bone, like a beam sticking up right here, and then like another supporting beam down here, and then you would have had like a fleshy sail here. That's one of the first inaccuracies of the Tapagera design is in the episode, they're depicted with these kind of like ribs almost that would have supported the sail. There's no evidence for them having that.
But there would have been something supporting the crest, right?
It maybe would have been cartilage, or it would have been just maybe strong muscles. It's also shown that in the episode, both males and females have different crests. So, like, the males have the large red crest, the females have like a smaller, more orange crest. And this has to do with, I believe it was thought at one point that, and I may be wrong about this, that Tupandactylus imperator and Tupandactylus navigans represent 2 sexes of the same species. And it's now believed these were different species. Now, it should be noted that other pterosaurs have sexual dimorphism, such as Pteranodon. Males are bigger with longer crests, while females are smaller with shorter crests.
I have a question.
Yes.
So do we have evidence within the structure of the remains that we've seen to believe that they might have polka dots on their crests?
No.
Okay.
Here's another really exceptionally well preserved Tupandactylus, where you can see there's the one, and then there's the other, and then there's where the sail would be.
I see.
So T. imperator, which is the larger species, is believed to have gotten 9 to 13 feet in wingspan, and while T. navigans, which was smaller, got around 8 to 9 feet in wingspan. Here's some different designs. Again, in life, they would have been covered in more pycno fibers. It should also be one of the biggest things in the episode that kind of just wrong as far as their depiction
Pretty
goes.
sure. Don't move. Go back to the other one.
Yes.
There you go. I'm pretty sure if you killed this thing in Monster Hunter, it'd make a sick axe.
There you go.
So that's actually one of the things I was going to say is, so you can see with the beak how they have like this dip in them, like on the upper beak, and the lower beak is like more robust. In the episode, they're shown
millimeters of beak.
In the episode, they're shown as living on the coasts and eating fish. It has now been through kind of like they do something called isotopic analysis of the bones, where based off of the different proteins and like vitamins and stuff present in your bones, they can kind of tell what diet you generally had.
And my bones, they're gonna know what a fucking slob I am.
And this data has been done to tapagerids. And it has been found in tapagera itself that it primarily fed upon fruits, nuts, leaves, arthropods, and possibly mollusks. And this makes sense, as their beaks are actually fairly similar to the beaks of, in shape at least, of modern birds called hornbills. And hornbills,
Jesus Christ,
they have these beaks shaped to primarily eat fruits and nuts. And this is actually an interesting finding because it means that pterosaurs weren't just. So a lot of pterosaurs as depicted in this episode were thought to have been fish eaters. There are some smaller pterosaurs like Dimorphodon and Ariognathus, which we know ate insects. And Dimorphodon probably also ate like small lizards and other things because it was fairly terrestrial as well. Then you have your big creatures like Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzegopteryx, which we thought of as giraffe storks, which basically ate anything smaller that they could fit in their mouth. So those are mostly, if not all, carnivorous. And then you have the tapagerids and possibly some other pterosaurs, which show evidence of being herbivorous, or at least omnivorous. And it's thought that tapagerids may have fulfilled the role of stuff like hornbills and parrots in the Mesozoic, which is kind of neat. It shows like pterosaurs were more diverse than we thought they initially were. And speaking of fulfilling the role of parrots and hornbills, Tapagera, their limbs, so their limbs in the episode aren't terrible, but Tapagera, their lower bodies are built much like the Ornithocheirus, but just kind of scaled down.
Right.
They had actually fairly distinct limbs compared to Anaguarids, which was like the Ornithocheirus Tropiognathus, where their back legs are actually fairly long as well. And furthermore, and it's granted it's only been found in some individuals don't show necessarily evidence of having it, but their hand claws seem to have been more curved and better for climbing. And with them, proportionally many of them being smaller in size, it is thought that much like how parrots and hornbills will climb and like roost in trees, especially when they're feeding on the seeds and nuts, so would tapagerids. And they had much longer hind limbs, which allowed them to be much better at kind of just walking around. So tapagerid on land, I mean. Yeah, here's one. You can pull it up. So this may not have been that
Oh,
uncommon sight of just one of them kind of running around eating fruit.
Just a little guy.
But
Just a little
yeah,
friend.
that's kind of all the notes. Oh, here's a kind of cool one.
You do a scrum.
And here's one flying, if it loads. That's really small. And this shows kind of like the differences between the species. But in general,
Virgin versus Chad.
where would we like to put Tapajara?
I want to put him in S.
B,
He's
B
silly.
or A.
I kind of want to put.
Wait,
we don't
what?
have any pterosaurs in S. I kind of want to put Tapajara in S.
Is that the
Okay.
pterosaur that deserves it, though?
I'm gonna be honest. The pterosaurs going forward, we don't have much better pickings.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Let's put him in S.
Y'all are just haters.
Y'all got to hate on the. You got all got on to hate on the not Ornithochirus. We're putting Tapajara in S.
See, I would have wanted to put one of the really big ones in there.
Well, as far as the really big ones,
That's what she
Ornithochirus was on here.
But what about the Quetzalcoatlus?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Quetzalcoatlus is one of the worst designs in the show.
All right,
Because
we can put Tape Jar in S.
we'll complain more when we actually get to the episode, but because the Quetzalcoatlus in the episode isn't Quetzalcoatlus, it's Frankenstein.
Okay.
Oh shit, it's Frankenstein.
Actually, it's Frankenstein's monster, you fucking Philistine.
No, you don't
Hang on,
understand.
fuck it, I'll show you.
Frankenstein just makes a cameo in one of these episodes, and it's just this nerd running
You know,
across
Frankenstein from Frankenstein Takes Over the World.
Actually, it's Dr. Pepper's soda. Thank you.
So, the Quetzalcoatlus in Walking with Dinosaurs looks like. I'm trying to get that one. Yeah, it looks like this.
I like that better than the big-headed abomination from the artistic
Shut the
depiction.
fuck up.
But that's what it actually looked like.
No, I'm sure that the other ones were more realistic for sure.
Because this is the skeleton of Quetzalcoatlus.
You see, you hate the scientifically accurate Quetzalcoatlus because it looks like something you'd see in one of your primal fear nightmares. Your sense memory.
I remember reading Hypothesis that, granted, has very little scientific backing, but someone called it, like, I think it's called like the primal fear hypothesis, where someone argued that the reason so many cultures around the world have depictions of dragons is because deep in our mammalian subconscious, we learned to fear pterosaurs. And so dragons is just PTSD from when we were like tiny monkeys.
Post-pterosaur stress disorder.
God damn it.
But yeah, the Quetzalcoatlus it's like Ornithochirus mixed with the one, like the Caucacephalus, and they removed all of its neck, and for some reason it still has teeth, and it's not Quetzalcoatlus.
If they removed all of its neck, did they at least leave the back?
That's what Quetzalcoatlus would look like. That is not that.
Don't worry, I got your joke.
What, me?
Yes.
Okay, where do I want to put Giant of the
I wasn't
Skies?
making a joke, I just want to fuck it.
Where do I want to put Giant of the Skies as a whole?
I mean, it is a It's like it
I
accomplishes
really like
what it
them.
wants to do, but what it wants to do is really depressing.
Yeah,
Yes, but it followed a narrative very well.
yeah, but it
As
doesn't
far
really.
as narrative, I would say this is probably one of the best episodes. As far as
Yeah,
accuracy goes, there's a lot of weird stuff.
it doesn't really showcase a lot of pterosaurs, which it would kind of like based on the title of the episode, you would like be showcasing a lot of. I kind of want to put the episode in C. Like,
Yeah,
I
'cause
think it deserves better than a C, though.
of the flying creatures there that are 5 depicted, only 2 are named in the episode, only 2 are further named in the books, and 1 has no name at all. Which is weird.
the pterosaur that has no name.
Okay, so for me, like, okay, so obviously the lack of appropriate accuracy to a lot of the things is definitely going to bump it down in grades. But I think its ability to
Make you feel bad.
well encapsulate the
All the time.
viewer into the episode
This is
should
you.
really put it
This
pretty
is you.
high too.
Dying in your 40s on the cuck beach.
Oh yeah, no, that pterosaur just like me for real, for sure.
Yeah.
but no.
Brayden, I'm gonna be real honest. I've been holding in this joke the whole time. I wanted to say, oh, so this whole episode's about Brayden.
No, dude, I was thinking the same
B for
exact thing.
Brayden.
B for Brayden. I'm fine with that.
Perfect.
From now on, every time we have to do an avatar for Brayden and something, we just put the fucking old man underneath the Kairos face on it.
Just like the washed up corpse getting its eye pecked out by the young folk. That's another part in this episode where the old man main character dinosaur just dies on the beach in the heat for no fucking reason and then gets its eye pecked out by a kid
Because, like,
of its own species.
the other 2 times,
Future is now, old man.
like the other 2 times where like the focal creature dies in the episode, like Post-Asukas dies from being injured by other creatures and then is ultimately killed by the Coelophysis. Leopleurodon suffers through a hurricane, and then Ornithochirus dies because he couldn't fuck.
Smash, please.
It's like a ferret, his balls exploded because he didn't fuck.
Oh, God.
That's
His
a thing.
balls.
That ferrets, if they don't mate during breeding season, they will die.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
It's
Damn, that-
crazy.
Damn, that's gonna hit me with the.
Anyway, this has been this episode of Walking with Reviewers. Bye,
Wow,
guys.
we're really ending it
gals,
on
non-binary
a-
folks.
On it. Remember the
Remember-
bat from that one movie has
Remember baseball movie 2006.
baseball movie DSL's
Sucking
2006.
lick baseball. Whoopi Goldberg.
Bye.